Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics about spirituality, introspection, dream analysis, and well, different other ideas and questions that I may find from people, who may have some trouble discovering certain things or they're not certain of themselves, so they need an extra point of view, while also underlining the fact that I'll always present things based on my own experiences, so never rush in taking whatever I say for granted. Now, the purpose of today's video will be the idea of going back to school for September and September 2020 and on. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is just as an alarm sequence, okay? This is nothing else than an alarm, because you have to understand that sending back your children to school will be exactly like these beautiful bombers that I have chosen as background. Now, you may ask yourself why I'm talking about school and um, why in my imagination I came up with the B-17. Well, it has actually a little story. It's based on my playing a video game called War Thunder. Now, in War Thunder, I've always been attracted by large aircraft, namely bombers and heavy fighters, all the heavy aircraft possible. So I would imagine bombers, okay, the protective bombers, okay. I would imagine the shell, right, the metal skin, right, as being that of a protective mother that has created a vow on its production line, okay, and its vow is whatever comes, she will try to protect the people inside. Now, the people inside still have to do their own job because the mother can only hold a certain period of time, right? And in my imagination, of course, I would view the bomber as a school bus, and as I had to go to bomb the bases, since that's kind of the only thing you have to do in War Thunder with bombers, well, almost, the point was very funny that the bombs were like the kids and the bomber itself was like the school bus, which was a bit funny to a certain extent. And like, I would at rare times play with my friends, and I would remind them, hey, I gotta go get the children to school, right? Like, that was actually what I meant, right? I would have to take the bombs to the designated target, right? And when I was at school, I would have to open my door so that the kids could actually go out, right? And then they would arrive to school in, well, explosive joy, because, well, I'm an incurable punsmith. Now, the point about this is, this is exactly gonna be your children's future. Because the problem with this pandemic, because it's always been a plan to release the cunt virus in the world, you have to understand that sending your children back to school will be the worst nightmare yet. If it wasn't enough for school to be dumb enough to dumb children down, and most of you parents already know this because you've lived this beautiful lie of, go to school and find yourself a job and all sorts of gibberish like this, and now you believe you're entitled to having your children suffer the same thing, the same fate as you, and suffer even more, preferably, because that's how many simple-minded people work like. That's gonna be exactly your children. This is gonna be your children. Most of the parents will actually gladly send their children to back to school because they don't know the amount of emotional pain that their children will go through. But actually, to a certain extent, they will, because most people aren't dumb as they look. They just take great pride, and they take great joy in other people's suffering, especially children, since children are defenseless. Okay, this is an animal instinct. Any animal, right, will take advantage of anything else that cannot defend itself. It's simply naturalistic. It is something that we all have in ourselves. We don't have to blame ourselves. But the difference in between us and animals is that we can live much more consciously than they live. Because animals, whatever they do is mostly subconscious. They just live by the aspect of instincts, okay? We can do the same things, but we can do those things consciously. That is the dimension of humanity. That is what it means to be a human, but unfortunately most people still live at the level of an animal, okay? Namely, they're basic, day by day instincts. Now, the point about sending your child back to school is, well, it will actually hurt them a lot. Don't forget that, they will have to wear face masks, which, if you ever had the chance to see the packages of face masks, they actually tell it doesn't provide any viral or bacteriological protection. But I'm sure most people never get to see that because, well, the problem is masks are simply sold separately, and I think it is quite a thing to not show people the package of the masks because they might actually wake up. People are actually waking up on the planet, so it's the last fight. It's the last ditch effort to make sure that people are dumbed down and control is preserved by this sick society. And why I say a sick society is because parents will gladly send their children to this emotional slaughterhouse. Because most of you will actually enjoy your children suffering, or you're even worse than that, you are ignorant enough to not realize the emotional trauma that you're going to inflict on your children. And if children are sent to school, the emotional traumas they will carry throughout their whole life, which means that when they will have children, they will be even more aggressive towards their children, because most people have always been like this. Parents have never been taught how to take care of their children's emotional needs, mental needs, spiritual needs throughout the thousands of years before us, so most likely they simply became abusive. And the biggest problem was that most parents, just like today, give birth to children just because their peers have children, and it would be a shame not to be, just like the others. When this happens, most likely you don't want that child, and you'd simply want to give up that child. But on the other hand, you have religious beliefs that you'll be burning in hell if you give up your child. So instead of doing the right thing and actually giving up the child and giving them to some institution that can take better care of them, no, you're just gonna abuse them. And those abused children will become abusers themselves, and they will feel entitled, right, to abuse their own offspring, and it's been a vicious cycle. So following this principle of a sick society, people will simply send their kids to school. Add to this that most parents actually go to work and they have to wear a stupid face mask for 8 hours a day or even more at work, they most likely will feel entitled that their children will also have to suffer, because if you suffer, everyone else must suffer. It's just a simple narcissistic trait, nothing more than that. There is not much blame to be given or taken if you have such a feature. It's important that you become aware of that so that you can make peace with it, because it will only haunt you till the end of your time, and you will give it to your children as well. You will cause a lot of pain in their life, and guess what? That means and equates a huge amount of karma in your life, which you will have to figure out and cleanse in future lives. So why not make your future lives much better right now by listening also to this video? So imagine that your children will have to wear a face mask for 6 hours a day at least, 7 hours, 8 probably, and they also have to do social distancing, as if there hasn't been enough stupid so-called social distancing. Now the question is, why would you be dumb enough to actually believe in social distancing? Like, how can you be social and distant at the same time? If you want social distancing, you can speak with your friends on the internet, but children actually have to go play outside. It's actually been a very great initiative by the northern states like Sweden, as I heard. They never said anything about wearing face masks or the such. They just said, okay, you just take care of yourselves, and, well, keep a little distance if you want, but not a single thing was imposed, if I remember correctly. Now, again, the point is, why would you even send your children to school? First of all, like, you've lived this lie. Don't, as a parent, most likely you've been to school and you've lived this lie. You know that school doesn't help you achieve anything in life. Like, stop lying yourself. It's one of the reasons why your life is so shit, because you're lying to yourself. You're propagating the same ideas all and all over again, the same dumb things your parents told you, that if you don't go to school you're not gonna have good results, and if you don't have good results you're not gonna have a good job. It's like, look around you. So many people lost their jobs in this society because jobs are nothing else than a sick way to abuse people. Everywhere you go, the marketplace will tell you that you are never ever gonna be worth more than the minimum wage. Can't you simply open your eyes? Can't you simply see that everything is going electronic, digital? People will be ditched more and more because McDonald's and the such, they're all calling on to automation, right? Onto AI, because AI can do things much better. And yes, you need highly qualified people to take care of the AI, but people are just sluggish, people are, complaining, people are always moaning, right? They're bitching, whining. It's time for the new earth to rise, okay? In the new earth, in the higher level of consciousness, okay, people will have so much more time because it's the purpose of AI to do the jobs for humans, while humans have to learn different skills, right, and take their talents into account and make it so that they can truly fulfill other people's requirements through their own skills, right? Value provision equates the amount of wealth that you will make. The wealthiest people are so wealthy because they're providing a lot of value to people. You may not understand this, but you just have to dig it up and see that the more value you provide to people, sooner or later the abundance will hit you, okay? This is the only way in society that you will ever gain abundance, okay? Think about the golden age, right? The gold rush, okay? There were two types of people. There were the gold diggers, right? The ones who would go and dig the gold, face all the perils of wilderness and most likely never come back. And there were the ones who would produce and sell the shovels, the survival kits, the medical kits, and everything needed. But usually the shovel makers were the ones that made a lot of money, right? Why be the gold digger when you can be the tools provider, right? It's like being the arms dealer in a war. You're not gonna make much money from going out in the war and fight, okay? It's the same thing as being one of those people back in the old times, okay? You never knew where the gold was, so you would just head into wilderness just believing that you will find the gold, and you never knew like whose beast's mouth you'll end up in, more or less. And well, it was just a passion for adventure. Of course it was a passion for adventure because so many people were sick of staying in a concrete jungle, so yeah. But the people who actually made the money were the ones who actually sold the shovels, right? Just like when you have an industry, okay, of let's say wood cutting, okay, you would make the most money by being the one who sells the axes, right, to the woodcutters, right? That's the actual point. That's how you actually make the money. Do they teach you this in schools? Well, definitely not, because schools were created back in the industrial age so that it would teach people how to do certain things. And again, schools are nothing else than, well, a part of a sick society, because this society is represented by abuse, okay? Abusive parents who never were taught how to raise their children, they will always, like in most of the situations, they will breed abused children who will in turn become abusive parents, more or less, and you have the sick society of nowadays. Now imagine that those abused parents actually end up as teachers, actually end up as lawyers, actually end up as judges, actually end up as politicians, or any other purpose and role in society, okay? And you have to understand, those people never ever made peace with their traumas, so their traumas will always play a role in their logics, okay? Because logics is about control, it's about a lower vibration. Lower vibration means victimization, and will always require the traumas, okay? Because traumas are nothing else than stories that you accept, and those stories are most likely created in your mind by different parasites that you give birth to, right? Or that come to your mind because you have mentalities of lack. When you have thinking of lack, then the problem is you will suffer, because when you have mentalities of lack, you call in all sort of negative or lower vibrational thought forms like demons and, well, other types of parasites of the mind, psyche, and spirit. And these will require you to have certain stories, and they will make up those stories for you. They will make things much worse. That is why, remember that in science also always says every time you remember something from the past, it's not the exact memory, it's always having some sort of, you know, alteration to it. Okay, there's something altered to it, right? There's not the exact memory that you had, because you're always gonna make it worse and worse. So all this being said, schools were created as a means to teach people in the industrial age in mass how to do certain things, how to do certain processes, and they're also nowadays a way of dumbing children down, because they're rarely allowing people to express themselves other than those stupid books actually state. If anyone in society comes up with an idea and, you know, they appear to be a free thinker, they'll always be disregarded, because whoever is a free thinker is a danger to the system, right? In the older times, before this so-called modern schooling occurred, schooling would occur by, you know, several families getting their children together, and they would pay a teacher, right, a tutor as it was called back then, someone who, you know, had a great degree of study and could teach the children. Such a person could cost a lot, so a family could probably not allow, you know, afford that, right? So more families would gather their children, so they would make a small class. Again, back in those times, people were again nothing else than abused, so I can't say that the quality of the teaching was much different, but at least the times were different, and there wasn't as much to teach as there is now, because there was much less knowledge back then. Okay, especially affordable knowledge, right, for everyone. But, you know, there were always ways of learning, right? And learning was also done by, you know, master apprentice, right? Back in the times, there was a much greater accent on, you know, physical workforce, right? Wood cutting and all sorts of things, right? Stone cutters and the such. And in order to learn, you actually had to get employed, and the master would actually teach you, and you would actually have to practice. How you do certain things? Well, you could actually, when you became much better on that, you could actually use your own thing, right? So the point is, as you do, right, you became better and better, so you had some sort of freedom. Nowadays, schools take away this freedom, because freedom of thought means a free thinker, and a free thinker again is a danger to the system. That is why children have to be dumbed down, and if you see, everything is aggressively pointed towards them. Many video games are toxic, not because they show crime or the such. It's because, you know, a lot of negativity, right? Abused children that get in there, and, you know, their egos are always exploited. They just want to win everything, and they're gonna be, you know, ditching a lot of negativity, right? There will be a lot of places that, you know, are full of these freeloaders, and such cases, okay, such situations are never taken into account by society. No one asks themselves why such, you know, places of negativity exist. This is nothing else than reasons why this society can be called, or should be called, a sick society, and should actually be demolished and built all over, right? So sending your kids back to school this year will be much worse. You have to understand this is a very serious topic, and the amount of trauma that is going to be inflicted on the poor children is going to be intense, and it's not going to be felt right away. It's going to take a long time to build up, and then years later, okay, the society will be even sicker and sicker. And you have to understand that if you're not doing anything good for your children now, you're gonna have probably no children left, because all the mask does is keep all the air that you're breathing out is gonna be stuck in there. All the saliva that you bring out through your, you know, when you expire through your mouth, right, when you breathe out through your mouth, a part of your saliva also leaves. There are a lot of bacteria in there, and the mask will act as a, let's say, a place where these bacteria can actually develop, because the mask does nothing else than acquire humidity from the air. Humidity hosts bacteria and all sorts of other such tiny microorganisms, and these actually become capable of breathing in the mask itself, especially with a lot of dumb people not knowing how to change their masks because they are simply poor, and well, they accept being poor, and instead of changing their masks and buying newer ones, they'll just wear the same mask all over again. The more you keep it, the more bacteria and microorganisms you're gonna have in it, and then the more they can breathe, and the more they will breathe, you have greater chances of actually breathing them in through your nose. Medics never use the same mask for more than 2 or 3 hours. The only purpose of the face mask for medics is that it will disallow them from actually drooling over the patient, because the medic actually has to work on the patient, and the patient is down, and they have to actually stay bent over for extended periods of time. So it can actually happen that you're gonna drool more or less, and the face mask's only purpose is to make sure that this doesn't happen, right? If you don't believe me, go ask some specialized medics, because whoever you're seeing, well, this generation is seeing some of the dumbest medics ever. You need to speak to the specialists, okay? Many medics nowadays, and this has been internationally pointed out, okay? Many medics are very low of quality, and the problem nowadays is the awareness of people. So many people aren't aware of their own surrounding, let alone of societal or international surroundings, okay? These people simply cannot be allowed to work in different parts of the world, in different parts of society, because these people are simply ignorant. You cannot allow ignorant people to come up with decisions, because the moment a medic takes care of you, okay, they may be aware, they may not be aware. If they do their work, okay, you allow that person the power to hold your destiny, right? This may not be totally under your control, but at least there is some sort of consent from you or your family. When you happen to be taken into account by such a person whose awareness is much lower than yourself, or whose awareness is dangerously low, and they're just subconsciously living, that's when you have a problem in society, because these people are gonna cause nothing else than trouble. These are the abusers. These are the people who abuse because they're not aware of how much damage they're causing around. Sure, these people are also teachers for others, because you will never ever learn self-love without going through abuse and trauma, but come again, you're actually required to wake up sooner or later, because that's the point. We are all waking up. These people are not gonna make it through the awakening, because they will go mad. The vibration of the planet simply goes up more and more, and people who simply keep resisting it, they will most likely run mad, they will commit suicide, they will do all sorts of crazy things. Add to this all the crazy things that are coming in the foreseeable future, like food crises and such, and no one's gonna announce any one of anything like this other than some woken up folks. So many people will be caught by surprise. You can see then The Walking Dead, okay? You can see then post-apocalyptical possible scenarios, okay? I have also other videos about this, so feel free to check out my channel for that. Hopefully you like the type of content that I'm creating. If you do, feel free to give it a thumbs up, feel free to share in the comments your opinions and your ideas. As usual, you are loved and appreciated. Feel free to share this, and I really urge you to share this with everyone so that we can raise humanity's awareness more and more. Feel free to guide people to my account so that they can learn more from me, and feel free to share some of your wisdom with me so we can together share and learn, and also, raise our awareness and that of humanity as well. All these being said, you are loved and appreciated. Take care, have fun. Remember, life is just a game, so play it, don't let the game play you. All this being said, namaste, you are loved and appreciated. Whatever you are doing is the best you can at the right pace for you. Take care, Ferenc Board signing out.